The world has become so interconnected, but so are the risks that we face. The COVID pandemic doesn't stop at national borders and it affects people regardless of nationality, of education or income. But that's not true for its consequences, which are likely to hit the most vulnerable hardest. And education is no exception. Those from privileged backgrounds are going to always find their way around closed school doors to alternative learning opportunities, well supported by their parents, eager to learn. But those from disadvantaged backgrounds will remain shut out if the school shuts down. So this crisis exposes the many inequities in our education systems, from the broadband and computers needed for online education through the supportive environments that help focus on learning, up to our failure to attract talented teachers to the most challenging classrooms. But as the crisis amplifies those inequities, this moment also holds the possibility that we don't return to the status quo when things get back to normal. We have agency. And it's the nature of our collective and systemic responses to the disruptions that are going to determine how we will be affected by them. And the G20 can make a huge difference here. Where school closures are needed in the short term, we can mitigate the impact for learners, families, educators, particularly for those in the most marginalized groups who don't have access to digital learning resources or who lack the resilience and engagement to learn on their own. The G20 provides the ideal platform to collaborate internationally to mutualize open online education resources and digital learning platforms, and also to encourage technology companies to join in to make all of that happen. The G20 can also help to enhance digital learning opportunities for teachers and encourage teacher collaboration across borders. And we can use the momentum to reshape curricula and learning environments to the needs of the 21st century. In this crisis, digital learning has risen from a nice-to-have extracurricular facility to become the lifeline for education. But the opportunities that digital technology offers go well beyond a stopgap solution during this crisis. Digital technology allows us to find entirely new answers to what people learn, how people learn, where people learn, when they learn. Technology can enable teachers and students to access specialized material well beyond textbooks, in multiple formats, and in ways that can bridge time and space. Alongside great teachers, intelligent digital learning systems cannot just teach you science, but simultaneously observe how you learn science, the kind of tasks and thinking that interest you, and the kind of problems that you find boring or difficult. And the systems can then adapt the learning experience to support your personal learning style with far greater granularity and precision than any traditional classroom setting possibly can. Or think of virtual laboratories. They give you the opportunity to design, conduct, and learn from experiments rather than just learning about them. But the COVID-19 crisis strikes at a point when most education systems are not ready for the world of digital learning. According to PISA, just 2/3 of 15-year-old students in the G20 countries are enrolled in schools where digital devices have sufficient computing capacity. And even in a technologically advanced country like Japan, just 40% of 15-year-old students are in schools with adequate software for learning. Less than half of 15-year-olds are in schools with an effective online learning support platform. And 2/3 in schools where principals consider that their teachers have the necessary technical and pedagogical skills to integrate digital technology in instruction. The state of technology in our schools mirrors the state of mind of our school systems. Our school systems were invented in the industrial age when the prevailing norms were standardization and compliance, and when it was both effective and efficient to educate students in batches and to train teachers once for their entire working lives. The curricula that spelled out what students should learn were designed at the top of the pyramid, then translated into instructional material, teacher education and learning environments, often through many layers of government, until they reached and were implemented by individual teachers in the classroom. The structure inherited from the industrial model of work makes change in a fast-moving world that is vulnerable to disruptions and crisis far too slow. The changes in our societies have vastly outpaced the structural capacity of our current education systems to respond. Even the best education minister can no longer do justice to the needs of millions of students, hundreds of thousands of teachers, and tens and thousands of schools. The challenge is to build on the expertise of our teachers and school leaders and to enlist them in the design of superior policies and practices. And we won't get there just by letting 1,000 flowers bloom. What it takes are carefully crafted, enabling environments that can unleash teachers and schools' ingenuity and build capacity for change. It requires innovators who challenge institutional structures that are too often built around the interests and habits of educators and administrators rather than learners. Innovators who are sincere about social change, imaginative in policymaking, and capable of using the trust they earn to deliver effective change. And these innovators exist. But the G20 could do so much more to mobilize, curate, and share the world's most innovative learning environments. To inspire students to learn better, teachers to teach better, and school systems to become much more effective. Now, I meet many people who say we cannot give teachers and education leaders greater autonomy because they lack the capacity and expertise to deliver on that. But simply perpetuating our prescriptive approach to teaching will not hold up in this moment of crisis, which demands from teachers not just to replicate the lessons in a digital medium, but to find entirely new responses to what people learn, how people learn, where people learn, when people learn. Really, the challenges that are in front of us go well beyond bridging school closures. We live in this world in which the kind of things that are easy to teach and test have also become easy to digitize and automate. The industrial age taught us how to educate second-class robots, people who are good at memorizing and repeating what we tell them. In this age of accelerations, we need to think much harder about what makes us first-class humans. How we complement, not substitute, the artificial intelligence we created in our computers. And how we build a culture that facilitates learning, unlearning, and relearning throughout our lives. Algorithms behind social media are sorting us into groups of like-minded individuals. They create virtual bubbles that amplify our views, but leave us insulated from divergent perspectives. They homogenize opinions and polarize our societies. So tomorrow's schools need to help learners to think for themselves and join others with empathy, in work, in citizenship. They need to help learners develop a strong sense of right and wrong, a sensitivity to the claims that others make on us, and a grasp of the limits on individual and collective action. At work, at home, and in the community, people will need a deep understanding of how others live in different cultures and traditions, and how others think, whether as scientists or as artists. And whatever tasks machines may be taking over from humans at work, the demands on our knowledge and skills to contribute meaningfully to social and civic life will always keep rising. It will be so important for G20 countries to work together to think about the design of 21st century curricula. Building these capacities will necessitate very different forms of learning. Technology will be an integral part of that. Technology can build communities of learners that make learning more social and more fun. Technology can build communities of teachers to share and enrich teaching resources and practice, and also to collaborate in professional growth and the institutionalization of professional practice. It can help system leaders and governments develop and share best practice around curriculum design, around policy, around pedagogy. Imagine a giant crowdsourcing platform across the G20 where teachers, education researchers and policy experts work together to curate the most relevant content in pedagogical practice to achieve education goals, and where schools anywhere in the world have access to the best and most innovative education experience. We could unlock the creativity of educators simply by tapping into the desire of people to contribute, to collaborate, and to be recognized for their contributions. This is how technology can extend the reach of great teaching. Recognizing that the value is less and less created vertically through command and control, but increasingly horizontally, by whom we connect and work with. And there's one more aspect the G20 does so well, and this is to help education to look outward, to the next school, to the next education system. It's not about copying and pasting solutions from other countries. It's about looking seriously and dispassionately at good practice in our own countries and also elsewhere, to become knowledgeable of what works in what contexts and applying that consciously. And it may be a key distinction between education systems that will master the crisis and move forward and those that will not. The distinction may be between those education systems that feel threatened by alternative ways of thinking and those that are open to the world and ready to learn from and with the world's education leaders.